Hello and welcome to another episode of Full Court Finance here at Zach's. I'm your host, Ben Rains, and today my producer Danny's going to be kind of coming in and out because we're going to be talking about a lot of different sports business related controversies, you could say. But as most of you probably know by now, Papa John's is out as the official pizza sponsor of the National Football League, and Pizza Hut is in. So we're going to talk about that. There's some relatively big news coming out of college basketball that could have some implications for ESPN, Nike, as well as CBS and Turner. And then there's also some lawsuits regarding Nike and Adidas as well that we're going to talk about today. But I want to start with Papa John's. I know it's been a week since it happened, but there's a lot to digest, and it really is a great topic in the mixture of business and sports because it kind of just is a microcosm of why it matters, and these companies pay so much money and it matters so much to the league. So we're just going to talk about the lead up to what happened to make Papa John's back out of the NFL deal. Did they back out? Were they forced out? Kind of speculate on that because no one really knows at that point. But the most basic premise is that Papa John's has been the official sponsor of the NFL for 8 years. And I want to walk through a little bit of a timeline. So in November 2009, Papa John's stock was trading at $11 per share. By November 2016, it was trading at $88 per share. So before that, it had basically just been sitting there relatively flat, going up slowly and slowly and slowly. And then the NFL sponsorship kicks in. And obviously, it's not directly for that reason, but the stock just skyrocketed over the next 7 years or so. It's been up and down since then. It's today. We were recording this on a Friday. This is out Monday. At this time, it was trading at around $60 a share. But Papa John's is a company. In one of the first episodes we did, if Danny remembers, we had on a guy, Nick Fullerton, from a sports ETF company. And it's a company that their fund is about tracking the business of sports. So they have all these companies that are official sponsors of the Big Four North American professional sports. And one of my last questions was, can you tell me a company that does specifically point to their sponsorship of a league or a team as a reason their business has boomed? And Nick Fullerton just came out and said, Papa John's comes right to the top of your mind when you think of a company who said, we can attribute a lot of our success to our partnership with the NFL, which is crazy. I mean, right?
Yeah, when he said that, it was kind of a mind-blowing thing because you didn't think about it, but in the back of your mind as he was talking about that, it just kind of slowly crept up on you like, holy moly, they really... I want to kind of circle back. I didn't realize how long they've been in partnership with the NFL, so it kind of resonated there, but yeah, it was a little insane to think that their entire success, quote unquote, has been attributed to the NFL. I mean, I don't know how good you think their pizza is. I think it's pretty good. Not the best, but yeah. I mean, I wouldn't go out and give it a 10 out of 10, but
yeah, I mean, I think their thought is the NFL is still the most popular sport. You have 15 million people tuning into the average NFL game, and you see a Papa John's ad, and you figure, I'm hungry, I'm going to call Papa John's.
A little subliminal.
That is the most simple way to think of it, and who knows? It's clearly the company thinks that that's true, and that's where we get into this issue because
it'll be fun to watch kind of how what happens, I guess, to see if the truth is, the NFL is successful and so will we.
Yeah, so in 2016, as most of you probably all know by now, the kneeling during the national anthem protests became a thing. Colin Kaepernick, it kind of went under the radar. He was sitting during the national anthem, and then it blew up. 2017, it's happening again. Whatever, Papa John's isn't concerned about it at all, at least not outwardly. And then on their quarter 3 earnings call on November 1st, Papa John, who is John Shatner, he comes out on their earnings call. He's the CEO and the founder, the guy you know as Papa John in the ads. Better pizza, better ingredients. I'm Papa John's. That guy with the dark hair and the red shirt.
The face.
Yeah. He comes out on the earnings call after they had 1% same store sales growth, which was disappointing for them. And he said, quote, "The NFL has hurt us by not resolving the current debacle to the players' and owners' satisfaction. The leadership starts at the top, and this is an example of poor leadership. The NFL has hurt Papa John's shareholders." He came out and directly said those things.
Shots fired.
That is not what the NFL wants to hear. They do not want to hear that from one of their top sponsors. We're doing a bad job, and you're blaming us for your lack of pizza sales. So that's clearly where this begins to unravel. I mean, you can't have the CEO of one of your biggest sponsors blaming you for their poor results. That's just not going to work.
You know what? And it wasn't just for investors. Yeah. Everybody in the media took advantage of this and was like, holy crap, Papa John's really just did that. And the NFL now needs to do something about this. So it really was an eye-opening experience for not only the NFL, but I think for Papa John's to kind of put the foot down.
Yeah, and then you had different other pizza companies coming out after they said that and said our pizza sales aren't being hurt by the NFL. You had media outlets relatively suggesting that Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones encouraged him to say that on the call. So that's not a good thing. And then you have the Yum Brand CEO, which owns Pizza Hut. He was eventually asked about it on his earnings call. Are you getting hurt by the NFL? Just says we're not seeing any impact from that. So
yeah, but were any of them sponsors? You know, did they have any direct correlation to the NFL like Papa John's did at such a large magnitude?
I'm assuming maybe locally Pizza Hut was involved with some ads, or you'd see a Pizza Hut commercial during an NFL game.
I mean, I'm sure everybody is, though. So,
exactly.
I mean, that's such a minute. I just don't see the correlation. So I think them asking questions to every other pizza place is a little ridiculous.
It was just to get their name out. And I think it was to plant the seeds of, hey, NFL, we want to be involved with you, because they could see the writing on the wall that Papa John's is not going to be here long term.
And as we will get further into it, we'll get a little bit more into that information.
Yeah, so then a couple weeks later, Shatner comes out, apologizes, saying, "We support people's right to protest," and this, I'm sort of paraphrasing his quote. "We support people's right to protest. We also believe, as Americans, we should honor the national anthem, and we want to support both sides." So it was just saying, I apologize if it seemed like I was trying to be divisive in my comments. And then pretty quickly on November 21st, Shatner announces, or Papa John's announces, he's stepping down as CEO. He's still the chairman. They didn't really give official reasons, but it seems clear that this NFL controversy clearly had something to do with it. Maybe he just didn't want to be involved anymore. He's probably made a bunch of money, doesn't need to be in the spotlight anymore. And a new CEO took over, Steve Ritchie, who, side note, his story is pretty crazy. He was a customer service rep in 1996. And then became a franchise owner eventually. And now he's the CEO of Papa John's.
He has come a long way.
That is actually a really inspiring story. So good on Papa John's for letting people move up the ladder like that. But so he's the CEO now. On their most recent fourth quarter sales, that came out right before they announced the NFL partnership was over. Their North American comparable store sales were down almost 4%. The stock's been down about 26% over the last year. Their international sales were up, and they opened a bunch of stores, about 100 or so in the fourth quarter, or maybe it was the full year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they opened a decent amount of stores this year, but all of them were international stores. They weren't trying to expand in America at all, which is kind of interesting that they're trying to grow, which is what Domino's and some of those places are doing as well, as expand internationally. And their guidance wasn't that great either domestically. Looking forward to 2018, they're expecting comparable store sales to be down 3% again, with an upside of maybe flat. So that's not good for a company at all if you're just going to have flat sales. So they needed to make a change, and it seemed clear that in the lead up to this, the NFL, there just might be a breaking of their relationship. And on the earnings call, the CEO said they were looking for a fresh perspective. They're hiring a new PR team, new advertising team. They already hired the new advertising team. And when you think about it, it seems obvious that they have to do this, Papa John's, or John Shatner, Papa John. Think of him as Papa John. He is Papa John. If he's going to step down, he's not going to be in the ads anymore. They need to completely rebrand everything. He was their ad campaign. It's just him in the ads.
Yeah. I mean, he's the one who made the pizza. I think that when I get a Papa John's pizza, he's the one making it for me.
He makes every Papa John's pizza.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be something that either they're going to make or break themselves with this new advertising. You know, it's a big part of your business. It's the way you represent yourselves to the public and to the media. So it's going to be a big thing for them to take on.
Yeah. In less than 24 hours later, Pizza Hut and the NFL announced that Pizza Hut's going to be the new official pizza sponsor of the NFL.
Didn't waste any time on that one.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, this was in the works beforehand. They know this is going to happen. All of the parties are involved. But yeah, so Pizza Hut is the new official pizza sponsor of the NFL. And it comes at a time when you have Papa John's blaming poor NFL ratings for their poor sales. And I want to go over the numbers again. If you've listened to the show before, I've talked about them a bunch of times. In 2017, the ratings fell almost 10%. They were down 9.7%, according to Nielsen, from 2016. In the 2016 ratings were down 8% from 2015. So obviously all of television in general, linear television is sinking. But the NFL's ratings going down 10% is not a good thing. So it's kind of a weird time for Pizza Hut to get in on this deal.
Yeah. It's funny with the NFL ratings going down, and we kind of know a little bit of why, a lot of that's happening alongside with all of the injuries that we're getting, concussions and so on. Just listening to the radio this morning, they passed a bill or something of like that, where now anybody under the age of 12 cannot play football, which is crazy. I mean, that's a huge step to pass laws or bills to say, hey, you no longer can play when you're under the age of X or whatever.
Yeah, I saw something on the news about that last night. I don't take us at complete face value of what this is, but I think in Illinois,
it's not a law. It's like the first step to creating restrictions and regulations for this sport. So.
The idea is there is the son of a former Bears player who committed suicide at the age of 50. They scanned his brain after he died. They found terrible brain damage, CTE, and the idea is that one thing you can stop is these subconcussive blows at all times from a really young age. You can play flag football, but let's not start having 5-year-olds banging each other's heads again.
So, I mean, all of this kind of combined, we're seeing a huge decline. And like you said, it's not good. So, I mean, everybody's starting to see that.
And as I've talked about before in the show before, I think you can believe whatever you want. In 50 years, maybe 20 years, maybe even sooner, the NFL is going to look different. They can't have this. People in the NFL now, if you ask them, lots of players will say, my kid's not going to play football.
Yeah, which is kind of scary to think.
This was my way out.
The ones playing are now saying, we're not going to let our future generations play at all.
I mean, you have Tom Brady's wife coming out publicly saying she wishes he would retire because of head injuries. Dude. That's crazy. And he's the face of your league. That's scary. That's not good for the NFL.
I mean, he's a great quarterback, but...
Yeah, I don't want to see him leave.
Side note, go Giants.
Speaking of the Giants, you had, this past season doesn't help the NFL when Odell Beckham Jr., J.J. Watt, two of the biggest stars, are out for half the season with big injuries. But getting back on track to Pizza Hut, you even had the Super Bowl ratings going down this year. It was the lowest Super Bowl viewership since 2009. And Pizza Hut's going to they're in the news right before the NFL draft. You have the combine going on right now in Indianapolis. The draft, I believe, starts April 26th, runs through that weekend. It's in Dallas, Texas, or Arlington at Cowboy Stadium, AT&T Stadium. It's the first time that they're going to have it at an actual NFL stadium. Normally it had been for years at Radio City Music Hall in New York City. It's been in Chicago the past couple of years. Now it's in Dallas.
It was very cool when it came to Chicago. I have to say that as a side note.
It was. And so Pizza Hut is now, they're going all in on the NFL. And funny enough, it's coming at a time when Pizza Hut's sales have kind of been a lag on or a drag on Yum Brands as Taco Bell sales have been going up and KFC's sales have been going up. Pizza Hut sales in general have kind of declined. Comparable store sales were down this year. I have it. They were down 1%, I think, comparable store sales, or they were flat for the year, up 1% in the fourth quarter.
It almost sounds like this is going to be their saving grace, or at least they hope so.
Yeah.
You know, getting in with the NFL, they're like, you know, any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of maybe a last-ditch effort. I've read some things that investors or some people are speculating maybe Yum Brand should just divest Pizza Hut, get rid of it. But if you look at it, Pizza Hut does have the most pizza stores, pizza locations in the U.S. by a far crazy amount. They have 7,500. The next closest one is Domino's at 5,500. And then Papa John's is fourth.
Surprising.
Yeah, and then you have Little Caesars in there at third. And then Papa Murphy's is fifth at like 1,500. So that's way down there.
It's crazy. I haven't had Little Caesars in so long that you mentioned that. I even forgot they existed. So the fact that they're even on that list is impressive to me.
Yeah. And then what's also interesting, though, about it seems people are maybe a little nervous that Papa John's is getting out of something they have said has been so beneficial to us. But what people might not have realized right away is that they aren't getting out of the business of the NFL as a whole. They're getting out of the business of we are the official sponsor of the NFL league, where they still have, as of this recording, 22 official partnerships with teams, individual teams. So 22 of the 32 teams, Papa John's is still going to be running ads all season long. You're going to be seeing their ads with probably still Peyton Manning and J.J. Watt in some of these local markets. And that means there's 10 teams up for grabs, which, who knows, maybe Papa John's then works out individual deals with all these teams. Because some of the big teams are both teams in L.A., so the Chargers and the Rams, and you have the Giants and the Jets are both up for grabs. But in some of those places, L.A., New York City, you don't really think of people. Most people probably in those cities are not. Pizza Hut is not the target market for those cities. Pizza Hut, Papa John's, it's smaller. In general, that is their target. It's not big city New York, especially New York. They have so many pizza options. People aren't really ordering. Hopefully they're not. If you're in New York City, you should not be ordering Pizza Hut. Put it that way, please.
Yeah. Well, you know, I always watch those pizza reviews by Barstools, and I think they're hilarious. Uh-huh. And they did one on Pizza Hut, and he was just like, boo, no, out of here. Yeah, I mean, come on. If you're in New York, you got to get a good New York slice. It's the same here in Chicago. You know, we have so many choices that it was a little weird when my friend would, let's go to Papa John's. I'm like, dude, really? We got deep dish. We got Geno's East. Come on.
Yeah. So Pizza Hut, they're going to be the official sponsor. We'll see how it works out. They're going to get a chance right away. The NFL is back on everyone's radar. The draft's coming up soon. The NFL, no matter if the ratings are down or not, is still hands down the most popular sport in the United States. So they're going all in on that. And another sport that Pizza Hut is also a big sponsor of is coming up soon. Or their marquee moment of the year is coming up soon. They are a big sponsor of the NCAA, and March Madness is starting in a couple weeks. I think Selection Sunday is March 11th. I could be wrong on that date. March 11th. So next Sunday. And there's some big news coming out of college basketball. Last week, ESPN's Mark Schlabach, who is a big college basketball writer there, writes a lot of good stuff, not necessarily about the sport, but a lot of the surroundings of the sport. And he came out and reported that Arizona men's head basketball coach Sean Miller was caught on wiretap in this big FBI scandal that dropped in the fall right before the season, discussing paying $100,000 to ensure that DeAndre Ayton signed with the Wildcats, star freshman. So that report drops. Sean Miller doesn't coach their next game. He said, it's not best that I coach the team at this moment. There's a lot of speculation of what's going on. You had Shaquille O'Neal's son. I believe his name is Sharif O'Neal. He was committed to Arizona. He's a top recruit. He then decommitted, I think, the next day to go to Arizona, and then committed to sign with UCLA. So it was a big deal. I mean, you have ESPN, the biggest sports news company in America, coming out saying Sean Miller paying $100,000 to get a player to come. But then this is where things get a little weird.
Yeah, and you kind of predicted this a little. You remember we had this conversation when we were talking about Adidas and how they were paying off a student.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
now look, it's just a continued snowball effect of if there is somebody else doing it under that rock, just waiting for it to be overturned. And here we go. So it's like negative thing after another, man.
And I don't know if you guys don't pay attention to the college basketball world, there has been talk for this whole season that since that big initial bomb dropped, that Louisville head men's coach Rick Pitino, they got him fired. Him and Adidas agreed to pay a recruit $100,000. That was the FBI scandal that came out right before the year.
Sounds like the magic number, 100,000.
Yeah, right. And that's what's funny. They've been saying, there's speculation the whole year that right before the NCAA tournament, they think that while the spotlight's on the sport at its most, everyone watches the NCAA tournament. Basically, most people don't think college basketball starts until March Madness.
Come on, people.
That some big name programs are going to be implicated in this. It's not just going to be Louisville. It's not just going to be some assistant coaches. It's going to be big time guys. And so you have ESPN coming out a couple weeks before the tournament saying Sean Miller is saying, hey, yeah, pay $100,000 to this kid. We don't care. Talk to me. Supposedly in this story that I read, he's saying he's caught on the phone saying, do you want me to come back to you, coach, or do you want me to go through an assistant to get this? He said, if it's about money, talk to me. That is what this ESPN report's saying. I'm not saying this at all because funny enough,
we'll call it a paraphrase.
Yeah, Sean Miller comes out and says, this isn't true. He says this ESPN story is totally false. Then ESPN, a couple days later, makes a correction to the timeline that Schleybaugh presented. Sean Miller comes back to coach the team. He gets a standing ovation at the next game. So he's back. And then ESPN doubles down and then says they were correct the first time. So this story is just starting, and it's just starting ahead of the biggest time of the year for CBS and Turner, who have spent billions and billions of dollars on March Madness. So it's just craziness.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they get any downside on their watch time. You know, the NFL gets this huge negative reviews, and now all this is happening with the NCAA and March Madness. Will it correlate? Will we see the same thing? You know, and with Pizza Hut being involved with both.
Yeah.
You know, will there be that correlation as well? So there's kind of a lot going on for Pizza Hut right now, and it's not good news.
Yeah, and I don't want to speculate totally, but that the Louisville incident in Rick Pitino, Adidas was directly involved. Arizona is a Nike school, and when people are throwing around $100,000, it's harder for it to come from the school. Nike could lose $100,000 and not even notice at all. I'm not saying Nike's involved, but I did a whole episode about this, that these companies in these schools, there's money involved, and the NCAA wants to make it illegal to pay these players. I don't think that if someone's willing to pay you $100,000 to come to college, hey, let them pay you $100,000 to come to college. But that's not what's under the rules now. So we will see.
It'll take so long for anything to change, but you know, with everything that is happening, you never know where it'll go. I don't think these players will get paid anytime soon, so let's just put that on the hanger.
But clearly it seems like some of them are getting paid just a little under the table, and maybe the FBI is going to say, actually, a lot of these. And funny enough, you have Duke. I mean, you have Duke coming next year. They got the number 1, 2, and 3 recruits in high school basketball who all play.
Can't stand them.
The same position relatively to go to Duke. That's crazy. But no more speculating about the corruption in college basketball. March Madness will be fun no matter what, and it might have even more eyeballs on it if all of a sudden 2 days before the tournament they say this school and this school and this school and this school have all paid all their players to come here.
Yeah, well, like I said, it'll be. I'm curious to see how it will be, you know, impacting them. It could be negative, it could be positive. You know, who really knows until it happens. So
yeah, and then in terms of these two big companies who are sponsoring pretty much every big college basketball program, you have Nike and Adidas. This past week, they actually both won separate lawsuits. So you had a lawsuit that Nike was fighting, a 2-year legal battle over a copyright issue from a photographer. I'm going to butcher his name, so I'm just not going to say it. He was implying that a photo he took of Michael Jordan in the early 80s for a Life magazine feature was what Nike then used to make their now iconic Jumpman logo, which is the silhouette of Michael Jordan dunking a basketball, legs spread, arms spread. He was saying that his photo was used as the basic idea of what then they created this now. I think Jordan Brand makes over $3 billion a year alone for Nike. So it would be a big deal if a lawsuit went against Nike. The judge ruled saying, in the most simple sense, that it's a photo that you took. They took a photo a couple years later of him dunking. It's in a different setting. Your photo's in a different setting. How can you say that a photo of Michael Jordan dunking becomes your property?
Yeah, it was like his style. It's like how he did the huge, from the 3-point line. He's just like, oh, I'm going to dunk this. So he's flying through the air, man.
Yeah,
that's just what he looked like.
So you have Nike winning that lawsuit. The Jumpman logo is theirs and theirs alone for the foreseeable future. Yeah, I mean, good for Michael Jordan, good for Nike.
I don't think Michael Jordan owns that.
Hey, he makes so much money from that. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, dude, the royalties. I don't even want to know the number on that check.
I mean, Michael Jordan is a billionaire. He owns.
Was he the first athlete to become a billionaire?
He's got to be. I mean, he owns the Charlotte Hornets, formerly the Bobcats. He's just rolling in it. But yeah, another company, Adidas, also won a lawsuit last week. They settled a suit for the third time, I believe. That
3 times.
Now,
it's a charm, right?
Yeah. So they were filing, or someone. No, they weren't being sued. They were suing a company, another sportswear company in Europe, for infringing on their copyright of their 3 parallel stripes. That's the Adidas logo. It had been ruled in their favor twice before, in 2015 and 16. This company's still trying to do it. So now this Luxembourg-based court, the second highest court, and this is based on on an article I read, the second highest court in all of Europe, reaffirmed the ruling that this company, now I'm losing it. It's Shoe Branding Europe. That's the name of the company. Interesting name of a company that they can't use. They were trying to do just 2 stripes in the same way that Adidas uses 3. Adidas is suing them, saying, you're just hoping people think they're Adidas shoes. So they won now this lawsuit for
it's a little
3 years
too
in a
close
row.
to being the same. I mean, a judge would obviously see that as the verdict came out.
Yeah, and that's how much money is in all of these sports, that you have these companies who have to be, they're getting sued probably at all times for stuff like this, or they're having to sue people at all times to hold on to their brand that means so much all around the world. I mean, Nike and Adidas,
household brands. They're iconic. People know them without even seeing the names.
Yeah, so you can't have Jordan Brand being tarnished, saying you stole it from somebody. They can't afford that.
You see the outline of Jordan, you know exactly what it is. You don't second guess yourself. I bet a 3-year-old could. No, maybe not. We'll go 5-year-old.
Yeah, but yeah, it's been a busy last week, and it's going to be a busy next couple weeks in the sports world, because
hopefully something positive comes out, because I feel like this entire episode has been just negative thing after negative thing.
But it's fun, and it makes you realize when all these stories are coming out, just how much money and how many people are hugely affected by what's going on in sports, that you might not really think of it that way.
It's a constant changing environment. So it's, like you said, it is fun to watch, but it's a little crazy when it is all negative. I kind of want something positive to come out of this.
So
that's why I watch golf, man. Everything's good when you watch golf.
Yeah, and you'll be happy because Tiger Woods, he's looking good. His swing looks good.
Yeah,
he's committed to play the next 2 weekends.
There you go.
The Masters is coming up. It's that biggest weekend in golf.
So pumped right now, man. When March 1st comes around, it's like immediately my mind goes to April. I skip the whole month, and I'm already in Masters mode.
I'm really looking forward to it. And you know who else is really looking forward to it? If Tiger Woods is playing in back-to-back weeks and looking good, making the cut, CBS and ESPN are just licking their chops saying, please, Tiger, please.
Wear Sunday Reds.
Please.
At Augusta.
Please.
Please. It's all they want, man.
It's all they want.
What would be iconic and would just be historical if him and Phil, final group. Could you imagine that? Fighting for Augusta's title? I mean, come on. No?
I'm not...
You're not a Phil
Mickelson fan.
Oh, come on, man. It's all right. I'll leave that one alone.
Lefty, whatever. But yeah, it's gonna be next.
And by the way, he's got his own jumping man next to Jordan now. Have you seen that new logo he has?
The Phil thing?
Yeah, the Phil jump when he won. He has that whole.
Oh my god!
It's all over his clothes. I think it's on his shoes.
Oh, Phil, relax. Stick to KPMG hats.
Burn.
Yeah, but the next couple months is a big time for the sports world. You have the NCAA tournament, you have the NFL draft, you have NHL and NBA playoffs, and you have the start of Major League Baseball, which is happening way too fast. They're already in spring training.
This whole sport lull that you have,
it's over quickly.
Yeah, it's very short. Everybody kind of enjoys it because you're so enveloped in every sport throughout the entire year that you get like a week and you're just like, it's kind of nice not to watch something on a Sunday or a Saturday.
And now sports are back, and that also means the business of sports are back in a big way because sports are just run by big money. And then also have the World Cup this summer, which is the biggest event in all of sports every 4 years.
So get ready.
Yeah.
We're going to have a lot of good stuff coming your way, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So tune in next week. That does it for another episode of Full Court Finance. I'm your host, Ben Rains. And remember, if you have any questions, please feel free to shoot us an email over at podcast@zax.com.